I am so overwhelmed. So overwhelmed. Thank you so much for being here. And before we start, I really just want to take a collective deep breath with you. So when you take a deep breath in, hold it for 3 seconds, and then slowly release it. So if we can all join together. I feel closer to you already. Thank you. Dear friends and gift givers of your attention, pain, both physical and emotional, is an intrinsic part of the human experience. Did you know that in many instances, pain can actually be good? It's a solid indicator that something in your body needs to be treated, or that that person that you're now free from should be avoided. When we get a painful sunburn, hopefully we learn to wear sunscreen. Pain is something we've all encountered in various forms throughout our lives. From the sting of a scraped knee to the ache of a broken heart. Pain manifests itself in a myriad of ways, affecting us mentally, physically, and spiritually. But today, I invite you to embark on a journey with me. A journey not just to understand pain, but redefine our relationship with it. Instead of viewing pain solely as an adversary to be avoided or suppressed, let's consider the profound lessons it has to offer. Pain. Pain builds fortitude and nourishes confidence. We can't know how brave or strong we are when only good things happen to us. We discover that we can experience tough times and come out on the other side tougher and with wisdom that we didn't have before. Varam Akradi. Now I'd like to ask you all to think about a pain that you might be currently experiencing. If you're in a moment of freedom from personal pain, consider someone close to you or something from your past. Now I have pieces of paper in the middle of a lot of these tables. I'd love for you at some point to write down that pain. Pain is as unique as our fingerprints. It's deeply personal. My experiences aren't more profound, nor do I claim expertise. I recognize my privilege and the atrocities our country has perpetuated and the generational pain that it's caused. I'm here to share my story. Through experiencing and facing my pain, I've developed character traits that I'm proud of, and I'm hoping that by sharing, you can all recognize your own strengths developed in the face of pain. Adaptable. Adaptable individuals possess a higher level of resilience, enabling them to bounce back from setbacks and adversity. By adapting their mindset and approach, they can effectively manage stress, maintain a positive outlook, and find creative solutions to problems. Now, I had a direction that I was going to take this talk, relating back to the purpose-filled dream job that I had, and I was going to encourage the community to join me in all of our efforts. But my job was terminated 2 weeks ago with no explanation. My heart is shattered, but I'm here in front of you to share my most vulnerable, authentic self, moving through this new pain. Perhaps my mustered courage inspires you to do the same throughout your day, next week, and next year. Now, to kick off this treasure trove of painful experiences, I'll start with the excavation of one of my earlier memories. Starting at the age of 6, I'd wake up in the middle of the night crying. Not because I was cold or accidentally peed the bed, but because I feared the nothingness of non-existence. The end of our lifespan, the drop off the flat earther's edge. How heavy. I was 6 years old. The giving tree left me with some pretty profound concepts that left me empty and longing for the fullness of that tree and the environmental compassion of the greedy man. This was the beginning of my environmental anxiety. I felt helpless. There was nothing my mother could do but hold me. and how powerful that hug was to ground me in gratitude and return me to this present moment. Eyes closed, comforted by love and compassion. This is my mom. Altruistic. Altruism is the unselfish delight in the well-being of others and engagement in acts of care and service on their behalf. Stephen Post. My mom realized that she needed to create pathways out of that feeling of helplessness. She began taking us to environmental and social marches, as well as to food banks, where we would pack and deliver food baskets to those in need. She gave us the profound gift of action, demonstrating that stepping outside of one's own head and contributing to the greater good was freedom from that helplessness. Now, that knot of helplessness is still very present. It sits heavy in my gut and grounds me into the ground. But I've learned to turn it into my superpower by regularly reminding myself that the world is so much bigger than the painful world of my brain. That one smile or exchange of gratitude gives my uneasy, anxious soul the peace that I was successful in helping just one person today. I've been seeking out that feeling ever since. Justice-driven. Never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. Cornel West. These are heavy stories, folks. When I was 12, I woke up to yelling downstairs. My mom had sacrificed a bedroom to ensure that my brother and I had our own, so she slept on a cot in the living room next to the couch. When I apprehensively walked downstairs, I experienced a front door wide open, followed by the reemergence of my mother in her pajamas. And my brother was bewildered, lying on the couch. A man had broken into our house and attempted to rape my mom. She woke up to the weight of this body on her and began to fight. My brother, who'd never sleepwalked a night in his life, somehow ended up on the couch right next to her. The perp placed his hands on her mouth, and my brother began to stir, somehow appearing older than he was. The perp got spooked and took off. My mom laid there for a moment and then became very, very angry. She took off after him like a lioness in protection of her cubs. She managed to not only get the make and model of the car, but the license plate number. Her testimony put him away. Several single mothers had been targeted by this guy and hadn't been as fortunate. The pain of that experience instilled in me a superpower. I am a very gentle, loving person, but I have a button, a fearless, I could mess you up type of button. I've seen it only twice, but it instilled in me a sense of justice. Compassionate. Compassion literally means to suffer together. Among emotion researchers, it is defined as the feeling that arises when you are confronted with another's suffering and feel motivated to relieve that suffering. We moved to Bremerton in the winter of 2017. We had no idea that our neighbors were somehow functioning in the physical, mental, and emotional space of multi-generational drug addiction. What a learning experience. Our house sits up above with an all too perfect vantage point that literally looks down on the dysfunction of chain-smoking pregnancies. At least she's off the meth, they'd say. Screaming matches and drug deals. Although I'd grown up in a rough place, raised by a single mother, she magically protected us. But in thinking back, fentanyl hadn't yet hit the market, and isn't it ironic to consider the fact that something created to relieve pain created so much more? I watched a young man, Nick, sell drugs as I gardened in my front yard. And yes, I made it known that I saw him. I observed as his mother would call him names and demean him. When I finally got to talk to him, I heard the lisp and the sweetness of a young boy, desperately wanting to be loved and cared for. One night after work, I rode my bike home and came up on Nick and some guy trying to start a fight with him. I yelled out, "Hey!" He turned around and started running toward me. I fearlessly remained in place. "Who are you? Who are you? His guardian angel?" I said, "No, I'm his neighbor." He looked at me confused. "Go, Nick." I encouraged him to take off. And he had a BMX and he took off like he was on one of the scenes from E.T. The guy ran after him, realizing that he couldn't catch up. He ducked behind the garage. So predictable. As I rode by, he jumped out to scare me. I rode my bike right between his legs where my wheel was right there. All I had to do was yank the handlebars. I threatened him. He claimed he was joking. I rode off vibrating with anger and adrenaline. The next day I spotted Nick across the yard with a bunch of friends and he hollered, "Hey, I'm really sorry that I left you there." It was a really surprising reaction. I had no idea that he was even cognizant of what was happening in that moment. "That's okay, I'm just glad that I was there to protect you." Now, unfortunately, Nick went to jail for selling drugs, and I didn't see him for several years. One day I was gardening, and some annoying person across the street was listening to music loudly on their phone, and I glared like the grumpy neighbor lady. And he walked toward me, and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm sober now." Unsure of who this was, but deeply grateful for anyone's self-improvement. I said, "Good for you." He said, I'm Nick. I used to live there." Emotions hit me like a ton of bricks. He cared that I knew that he was okay because he knew that I cared about him. I said goodbye, tucked around the back of the house, and sobbed. Advocative. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Angela Davis. There were several times throughout my life when I witnessed something and replayed it over and over, wishing that I'd said the right thing. Racism and homophobia seemed to rise up in our high school. I found an illustrated flyer on the library copy machine with racist, demeaning images, and I turned it in to the principal. Somehow they managed to find the person who'd created it. When someone wrote homophobic slurs on my friend's car, and another someone pushed a friend down the stairs for the same reason, I promised myself I would never remain quiet, and that I would always be an ally and an advocate. Shortly after we moved to Bremerton, our neighbor across the alley welcomed us with open arms and selfless assistance whenever we needed it. I came to learn that he was likely the most altruistic person that I'd ever met. The more he shared about his life and the blatant inequalities within his job, the more I wanted to support him in finding something better. He gladly took the resume help and openly shared a felony. When he was younger, he had a girlfriend who had chronic pain and epilepsy. He had learned that marijuana could potentially help in this situation. So having never smoked it himself, he bought some. There was a drug bust, and the seller named my neighbor. And it's important to note that my neighbor is black. So he was then interrogated and threatened with a felony if he kept his mouth shut and shut it remained. Having just learned of civil survival, and having mentally filed away the fact that Obama passed a measure that expunged marijuana felonies in states where it was now legal, I contacted Civil Survival. Within 30 minutes, Tara Simmons wrote me back, who was the executive director at the time, and provided me a list of resources. I got to work filling out paperwork, paying for and downloading his record, and then earmarking every spot where my neighbor had to sign and engage, providing him clear tasks in support of his ADHD and minutia-induced anxiety. He scheduled an appointment at the Kitsap County Courthouse, and I took an extended lunch from work to support him. My neighbor and his wife arrived, apprehensive but ready to tackle the deep-rooted source of pain in both of their lives. There was only an hour where the judges would see the variety of cases, recognizing only the attorney-led cases first. We waited and waited and waited our turn, and then his name was called. You don't have the correct paperwork. So we went back down the hallway to the clerk's office, who didn't know what the judge was talking about, didn't know the right paperwork that we needed. So we then returned to the courthouse. Getting flustered, there was a new judge that just appeared. I'm sorry you don't have what you need. And I spoke up, please, Your Honor, please, is there anything that you can do? He has worked so hard to get to this point, and he deserves this opportunity. He said, I don't know, and I don't even know who you are. And I said, I'm his neighbor. I'm here to advocate for his character. The judge looked down at the paperwork in front of him and noticed that another woman was fighting for the same thing and happened to have this magical piece of paper that we'd needed. So the judge copied it. He whited out her information. He copied it again. He wrote in my neighbor's information, stamped it, and handed it over. Shinaka took that piece of paper. We returned to the hallway to head back down to the clerk's office. And he bowed his head and shook and he said, so this is what freedom feels like. Shortly thereafter, he and his wife were able to buy property in Shelton and moved away. I'd never been so proud to wave goodbye to somebody that I'd missed so terribly. Resourceful. Obstacles, of course, are developmentally necessary. They teach kids strategy, patience, critical thinking, resilience, and resourcefulness. There are so many ways that we can lean into our pain, pushing through the meat grinder of life to find our incredible strengths on the other side. Practice kind talk. Pain turns the volume up to 11 on your inner bitch. Follow positive coaches. I happen to follow It's Lenny on Instagram, and I highly recommend it. And if any of you can get through their videos without tearing up, you're amazing. I want to learn, grow, and stay in awe of everything around me, because I don't need to be the master of this life. I want to be the student. My heart is open and accepting of everything and everyone. I radiate love and light and positive energy. Practice acts of kindness. If you're regularly an active delivery driver of kindness, it's no longer random. Throw it like confetti. Make being kind a part of your personal ethos. Volunteer. Did you know that we have a resource that was created by Leadership Kitsap and United Way, where nonprofits can post their needs in the community, where you, as an active volunteer, can link up with something that meets your passion? KitsapFoundation.org has a list of all of the nonprofits that participate in the annual Great Give. Figure out what your passion is and connect with that organization. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a personal plug for Kitsap Harvest. We always need gleaners. Embrace community. Find your people who unconditionally love and support you. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to grow with one another. So many of us fear being a burden. You're not a burden. Recharge your energy stores for the world around you. Exercise, garden, get outside, connect with the little roots. Make music and dancing part of your supplemental routine. Action-oriented. Somebody has to do it. And I've always wanted to be somebody. There's a beautiful story behind that. But my friends, thank you so much for being here today. During this often stressful time of year, I hope that while you're driving and someone cuts you off or flashes you the mighty middle finger, that my stories give you pause and inspire you to send them peace instead. I hope that you'll reconsider the problem neighbor and exercise compassion and waves of hello instead. I hope that you all reach out to someone that you're thankful for and let them know. Kindness only makes a difference when it's being done. Connected. All things are connected like the blood that unites us. We do not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Chief Seattle. From pain emerged traits that define who I am. An adaptability born from facing unexpected setbacks. An altruism nurtured by my mother's guidance toward contributing to the greater good. A drive for justice ignited by a traumatic event that showcased my mother's lioness-like protection. And a deep sense of compassion fostered by observing the struggles of my neighbors in the grip of addiction. Yet pain isn't confined by my experiences alone. It's threaded through the stories of countless others, each unique, yet connected by the human experience. From the pain of injustice to the anguish of witnessing others suffer, these moments have ignited within me the advocacy for change and resilience to stand against prejudice and inequality. We live in a world where pain often seems insurmountable, where despair can overwhelm hope. But amidst this, I've learned that pain can be transformed into a powerful force for good. It's taught me to advocate fiercely, to seek justice, and to lend a hand to those that need it most. Now, does everyone have that piece of paper with their pain written on it? I want you to take it home and plant it. There are wildflower seeds in it. Be witness to the power of your pain and the growth it inspires within and around you. Thank you so much.